what I'm not sure of is how I go through this content. Like, am I just kind of explaining what's here, or
It's your class.
just
There's no coffee up there. Just water. Down to the store. No, no, no. Just get it from the water fountain. I think that should be
just regular water's fine. Oh, if you bring water, water's. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Hello. Um, I can't. I only see Reagan Flowers here. Are you? Hello. Okay, I think. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is kind of how to um, go through this content with your teachers. So I just started the.
We just look at the PowerPoint. This is your training, so anything you want them to take away from what culture is, and then just go ahead and explain.
Okay. Okay. Everyone is an artist and an engineer. Okay, so in 4 o'clock, in 1 minute, I'm just going to introduce myself type of thing.
Yeah, go ahead and just introduce yourself and go through your training as you planned.
Okay. I've never really done this before, so I'm just kind of like, I'm hoping that people will kind of, engage me in the way, in whatever I'm leaving out, like maybe ask me some questions type of thing.
Yes. Sometimes teachers will respond to your questions in the chat box.
Okay.
We try to keep the microphones muted just so that there's no excess noise and we can hear you clearly.
Okay.
And actually, I'm going to be making you start as well so that you can, everyone can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being our sculpture trainer, and just start whenever you're ready.
Okay. I see that there are 4 people online. I guess I'm going to just introduce myself. I'm Angelbert Matoire. Um,
I mean, like it says there, I'm born in Louisiana. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I'm a visual
visual artist. I currently live in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. Um, I am today at University of Kansas doing a lecture and some master program audits and um, studio critiques. Um, for this program, I was invited to kind of talk about sculpture and object making from recycled material. I was thinking a few moments ago to kind of change the idea or change the kind of title of recycled materials, um, using a term that I kind of, where did I put it? Just found. I'm going to post it now. It's trite. And it's kind of when you use found objects to create artwork. Don't like to use, try to see what it is. Let me see if I can get this going. Is this correct? Yeah. think this might be a good word to kind of make a it's kind of like it's used for when things are worn out or worn away, like maybe a found bottle or a bottle cap, piece of paper on the ground, something that you can apply to another surface to create something that you desire to create. Let me see if I can send this so everyone can see it. I guess to speak about my inspiration.
My inspiration is that kind of thing. I'm interested in when work kind of creates itself, leaving things in a space to age, kind of applying things as they come to me, drawing wise.
And in terms of painting, kind of reworking objects to, what's this? Oh. That's good. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm just gonna keep going through this material. I'm not sure if I'm intriguing anyone yet. I feel a bit nervous. It's the first time I've done this. But kind of my inspiration is about, making things out of nothing, or taking things that are unused and reusing them. I'm not really working in the format of recycling. I'm kind of recycling things within my own space, like paintings that
don't really have the lifespan to be shown or sold, and I take these things and I reapply them.
I reapply them over and over again until they create the kind of thing I wanted to do.
By cutting up canvases and reapplying canvas to new canvas, and then
reapplying drawing and painting and on until I have something. Sometimes works take 10 years, 3 years, a couple of minutes. It's all different. My research I kind of gather from, and exploration I gather through traveling. I've lived in a lot of different places. I left America for the first time, not as a tourist, but to travel in 2000 to Havana, Cuba for the Cuban Biennale. After I returned from Havana, I followed through with an exhibition in Berlin, which ended up becoming about a year-long stay in Europe. I didn't just stay in Berlin, in Germany, but I moved around Germany and went on to France, and from France I went on to Tokyo. And then about 2006 I left New York City after I'd come back to the States for a while and lived and worked in New York, and I went on to Asia, to China, Beijing, and then down over to Shanghai, and from Shanghai to Guangzhou. And when I left Guangzhou, I went back to Europe, where I've been since. So that would be all three of those things: research, creative expression. Let me see. How I define sculpture is several ways. It really depends on the medium. I'm more interested in like allowing the medium to express itself. I currently am working with cement and paper and debris to kind of create an alternative medium that I can kind of scope from, kind of allowing the concrete to find, the cement to find its way into different forms, and then reappropriating the forms to fit what they create naturally. And in some cases, making molds and making impact into sand and to soil and creating more defined forms that I can apply to these different things. Essentially, my definition for a finished sculpture, a finished sculptural work, is something that takes on a different shape from every angle you view it. I mean, to me, that's a successful sculptural work. It's like a living being. To me, simply making something for the aesthetic purpose for sculpture is not really entirely sculpture. It's an aspect of sculpture, but it's not what I consider to be the definition of sculpture. think it's working now. Okay. Oh, I'm back on now. Okay, so I'm thinking about like how kind of working in recycled materials, like how
To
to
build mass from them to create sculpture. And I was thinking about kind of uh, how they're making sustainable.
houses out of bottles, usually glass bottles and tires with earth. And I'm thinking about kind of how to build something that is from these recyclable materials that can stand alone and also stand for a long time, and how that's done, and how to maybe do it on a scale that
That a middle schooler or a elementary school student could do it. And I'm also looking at the past projects, seeing like this one's use of sacred geometry on this one, and the pattern that was created in the back of this molded
sculpture, and this one with like making a statement about recycle materials harming the environment, um, um, and how to maybe build something that kind of expresses more like maybe where this animal is, where this is occurring, um, maybe the other significance of this sea creature, and the kind of state that the sea is in currently. Um,
I guess this one's a great example of that. It's like appears to be floating on a
sea of garbage.
Okay, so Mr. Angelberg?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I mean, can you tell us a little bit about how working with recycled materials work, or what are some benefits to it, what are downsides to it?
I like to think about it in terms of like layering. You know what I mean? Like how can you build up a surface, or how you can like kind of take this kind of these objects and recycle them into like objects that can be of use, maybe like as a way of extracting it out, like maybe somehow flattening bottles and bonding them together to make the appearance of water, um, or a fabric even. Um, I would imagine like um, pieces of aluminium that can be tapped together and kind of create a foundation for something that's solid to stand on. Um, and my work, whenever I use objects like this, it's to kind of not only just fill in an area, but to kind of create something that won't dissipate. I mean, because that's kind of the issue with these plastics and with aluminium and such, is that it won't dissipate, which means that it's the perfect material for creating something that you want to last. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking about Dada in terms of the ready-made, or the kind of charged object, or the object that takes on another meaning based on being what it is. Um, that's why I kind of put that in. I wanted to see if anybody could kind of, based on this definition, see like a way to use like this kind of avant-garde thinking about cubism and
constructivism, expressionism, to make an out, like to make a kind of a process.
to use as a process, or as to create an object. Yeah. Um,
And I think that this would be kind of a good position for the students
to take is to think about the found objects that are in their life already and how they can take on a life of their own. I don't know, I was just kind of imagining a raft made out of bottles, you know, incorporating these stories like they're kind of their own mythologies through kind of locking things together and seeing what they could build from it. Um, to keep these things kind of out of the ocean.
Okay, Mr. Angel, but
Mm-hmm.
can you tell us a little bit about how, what is your process when designing a sculpture?
What's my process
When designing
for designing a sculpture?
sculpture.
It typically begins for me like at the at the drawing board. I kind of I just currently finished a natural observatory. Um, I began with kind of simply seeing kind of the use of curved light, and I wanted to make something that would operate in the day as kind of a place of calmness or a place to kind of think, like a meditation center, and in the nighttime operate as a natural observatory. And so I started to look at form. I started to look at geometry. I started looking for kind of a space that both held sound and amplified sound, um, so that I could kind of create a dissonance between the space and the person in it. Um, and then I started to look at structure, architecture, um, and I started to look for shapes that would skin or clothe this environment without taking anything away from it. And that was also functional, like a place that couldn't get too hot during the day if it ended up in a place where there was sun, which it would have to, and because you'd need a clear sky at night. And so I began with the functionality of an object before I get to the aesthetic reality of the life of the object. Um, and so with that particular project, the Natural Observatory, as a sculpture, it was purely based on like what was living, what I wanted it to mean. It wasn't arbitrary. The parts, like there's 8 parts. One part has a path. Even the shape of the path is important. So I think like you first collect symbolic, like symbols. I mean, you collect, you find out what you want it to say, and then you collect symbols that say it, and you simply, align those symbols uh, to create your form. Sometimes it could even be a group of toys or a group of things that someone likes. You put them all together and you kind of chip away or fill in the edges, and you see what you have. Um, I kind of don't really think about things in terms of the aesthetics of it in the beginning. I think about the aesthetics in the end, and which ones are practical and which ones are superficial. Um, when I make sculpture, that's kind of what I choose to think about. Small wallet. Okay. But that's kind of how I begin working in 3 dimension. You can think of some other things I make, like when I work with clay, I'll kind of use that as a means to kind of I mean, every medium I think has its own power to create from. Um, I think about the medium first as well. If I'm working with a medium, if that becomes the most important thing. But if I'm working with an idea, then the idea becomes the most important thing. Can everyone see these links? I think these would be cool videos to kind of share. The Robert Rauschenberg one, I think he Robert the particular body of work I'm interested in with Robert Rauschenberg are his combines, which is a period of time in which he took images and objects and he basically combined them uh, to kind of take on meaning. And it's a really beautiful film, little short video with his work from this period of time, this period of work, the combines. And it's set to a really beautiful sonic animation almost. It's animated by the sound. It's quite a beautiful piece of footage. And it also, I think, will kind of show a side of art where you don't have to think about something being so beautiful as much as it can say something. Um, Theo Jansen is is a is an artist that I think is more of a scientist than an artist. But he's created these kind of living beings that live and operate. These kind of robotic living beings are, I don't know what you would actually call them, but they live and operate off of oxygen and water. And it determines what they do, where they go, uh, the kind of environment that they're limited by the environment. I mean, they don't pass over rock, and they don't go into the ocean. There's sensors, like natural kind of very oversimplified features that uh, alert the object or the being when it's entering a space where it cannot survive. I think that's a really interesting kind of evolutionary thing to think about in terms of making an artwork or making an object. Uh, is where are the limitations of its ability to exist? The other artist is kind of, I don't know if you guys are all in Houston or not, but in Houston, Jesse Lott is he's a phenomenal artist. He's someone that really inspired me when I was younger. He's a great um, philosopher and teacher and artist. Um, Many skills, many techniques, many ideas. Um, but I just think his work is something that I think would be compelling for students to come in contact with as young as possible. I put him in the same realm as Alexander Calder. Of, um, I'm interested in Alexander Calder's work as he was making the mobiles. These kind of, I think every elementary school you make a mobile. So that was a part of learning now. But him and Jesse Lott, I think, there's a lot of connections that I think children will make faster somehow. Um,
Jesse Lodge's work is really about found objects, about recycled objects, about picking up the things that he can bring into a second light.
just yeah, wood, bits of wood that have been, tossed away, and wire, rope, all of these things kind of enter his work, and they're given like very, very, very kind of strong engineering core understandings of tension and uh, repelling and adhering uh, without like welding or without gluing. Like its work's not really about that. It's about how things work together naturally, finding the nature of the medium. Um, so I think that Jesse's work is strong in that way, and Calder's work is beautiful in that way. And I think that you can see the difference, and the difference
Does, I think, matter to be able to recognize those differences of making something that is aesthetically beautiful but may not last without
a great deal of protection, and something that will last forever.
uh, without any protection. I think it makes you think about the animals in the ocean or the animals in general or even human life, life in general
Differently. I see your question, Veronica. I don't know how to get these videos to play, um, but maybe somehow there's a way of collecting these websites and maybe showing them to your students or watching them yourself. I don't see how to do that though. Is there a way? Um, yes. Put it in this thing here. See. See. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to show the students those. The Rauschenberg one is really interesting, but it's beautiful. The sound, everything is real. I think it'll animate your students. It's quite beautiful footage, and I think Jan Theo Jan is he's great. It's a really interesting and beautiful film as well, and insightful. It's more of a documentary. There's quite a bit of information about him. Um, I'm also looking at these links, so kind of seeing what's going on with everyone here. Does anybody have any other questions for me? Hey Carl, yeah, okay, I think I can do that. Let's get back to the beginning of all of this myself. um, yeah, I kind of just basically introduced myself and what I've been up to for the last few years. I'm not sure if all that's so interesting to you. I currently live in the Netherlands. I'm working. My studio, my working and operating studio is in Houston, Texas. Today I'm currently giving a lecture at University of Kansas, which starts in about an hour and a half. Um, about my work and with I am presenting some ideas about sculpture, and I hope that some of these links I left here can be helpful to everyone. Um, I in terms of sculpture, the people that I'm interested in that I think would be inspiring for children um, are like Calder, Jesse Lott, uh, um, Robert Rauschenberg. I mean, even though Robert Rauschenberg is known as a painter, he has a way of assembly that I find useful for thinking about sculpture. And an artist like Jesse Lott, he also works with found objects. Uh, majority, most of the time, wire and wood, uh, metal, cans and whatnot. He doesn't use much plastic in his process. Um, and Theo Janssen, he is more of a scientist who has started to build these kind of living sculptures that live on the beach in places like Denmark, and so I know that there's one in the Netherlands as well. Um, and he's created a kind of limited zone in which these things can uh, keep themselves self-sustainable. Uh, they live between the rocks and the water on the beach, on the sand. And he's created some very simple sensors that keep them aware of whether or not they're in danger. And I thought that those elements of knowing your limitations and evolving within them, uh, the tension of making something that can uh, between tension and um, flexibility.
That's in terms of that's why I added Jesse Light, not only because he works with
Recycle and found materials, but because he is working as a natural engineer, and I think there's a lot to be gained from that as students can encounter it, and in terms of also like kind of how the aesthetic value of his work, like it actually comes from the beauty of how it actually functions. It's like his work really appears to look like a nervous system of of a living being, um, in the muscle system. Like he makes the internal part of his work that makes it stand is the same part of his work that makes it functional. And the beauty of it all coming together is what makes it art. And I think an artist like Calder, the functionality of his work is quite different, but it's aesthetically pleasing. And I think like to show students the difference, the push and pull between those two types of artists, and the push and pull between an artist like Robert Rauschenberg and Theo Janssen, um, I think it could be quite inspiring in their approach on how to think about working with uh, um, the projects that you guys will be doing for CSTEM. Yeah, I'm not sure I can help you with knowing what the challenge is yet. I think I'm going to find out as well soon. Um, but I was just asked to talk to you guys about sculpture. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm about to start wrapping up. I have a lecture here soon in Kansas. This I don't know. I guess you guys can see what I have on the screen now. This is your academic pacing for this weekend's workshop. Um, I think they're gonna create an opportunity for me to
Be available to help you in any way I can. So I guess they're going to provide you with a way of reaching out.
out to me. Um, and if you guys have anything you want to say to me now, in the next couple of minutes, I'll do my best to try and answer it. If you want to call into the mic and say something, I'm open to that. If you want to text me something that I can just text you back, I'm open to that. But good luck with everything, and I'm looking forward to also finding out what the challenge is, and also hopefully getting to know you and meet some of you soon. So next time I do this, I won't be so nervous. All right. Thanks.